So dear Thai, dear family, thank you so much for coming. And we will start off by listening to 3 sounds of the bell. So first off, we'll just come back to our posture with a straight back, letting go of all the tension in our shoulders, feeling the points of contact with the floor, with the mat, coming back to our breathing. Have nowhere to go, nothing to do, as we listen to the 3 sounds of the bell. So dear Thai, dear family, today, for those of you who don't know, I think you all know, is the winter solstice. So today is the shortest day of the year, and the night will be the longest night of the year. So for all our Northern European ancestors, this was one of the most significant days of the year. And our ancestors from Northern Europe have been honoring this day for hundreds of thousands of years, way before Christian time. And this is partly why, their customs are partly why we have all of this behind us right now, a rather different background to the one we normally have. So there were huge monuments built in Ireland, in Brittany in France, in the north of Scotland, in the islands, Orkney, in Wales. Huge monuments in Stonehenge as well. And their unique purpose, we think, because we can't be sure, but we think, is to receive the sun's rays on this day, the winter solstice, and also the summer solstice. So this was of such importance to our ancestors. And so we can take a moment to reflect, it's only the last 1,000 years we've been celebrating Christmas, but in fact, this contact that we've had with nature and with the environment goes very, very deep in all the cells of our body and has been transmitted over countless generations. So we continue some of those pagan customs. We bring in greenery from outside, the evergreen. Well, we have plastic trees here, but we know in the dining room we brought in evergreen. And of course that would symbolize life in the winter. It seems like everything is dying outside. No more leaves left on the trees, so cold and dark. But there are some trees that continue to be alive with greenery, and so our ancestors would bring those inside. And they would also become a protection against evil spirits and to bring good health to the house. So we would collect mistletoe. I was going to bring a piece, but I forgot. We have a lot of mistletoe, we are lucky, in our poplar grove. And the mistletoe was believed to be magical because that plant is a parasitic plant, so it has no roots of its own. So imagine our ancestors would see in the depths of winter, growing on the oak trees, the apple trees, when there's no leaves, seems like they're dead. But he was life, just growing out of a branch, green leaves and white berries. This was completely magical, and this was a holy, sacred plant. So this year I was collecting evergreen foliage with some of you too. And I was with my dad. I remember my father going out collecting foliage, and we would meet many families as we were out trying to find the best berries to bring home to the house. And so we're continuing these customs that those of us in this part of the world have been doing for thousands of years. Another thing that's very important is light. Why do we have Christmas tree lights? We have many here. The tinsel, the mirror balls to reflect the light. It's because today being the shortest day, the longest night, our ancestors saw that the sun kind of stopped. It stopped coming up early in the morning. It kind of stayed for about 12 days. In its cycle, it just didn't move anymore. Would it come back, or would it continue to disappear? And so there was the tradition of the Yule log, of finding a huge tree and burning a huge bonfire to make light and to hang all kinds of solar objects on the trees to invite the sun to come back, to bring the sun, to have light in the darkness. And we still do that today. So these are not only dark times because of the longest night, but also we have climate crisis, we have war, we have despair, alienation, loneliness. There is a lot of doubt and despair, helplessness in the world. So being with this darkness is very challenging. But in this time of winter, we have a new verb, wintering. Can we use this winter? Can we winter and come back to ourselves, knowing that the way out is in? So the invitation is, can I let go of all my leaves? Can I become as bare as those trees that we see out there? We just see the trunk, the branches. They look dead, but of course we know they're not dead. So can I let go of all my leaves? Most of you here, you've been doing the winter retreat, 2 months of winter retreat. Have I been able to let go? Can I go through this winter bare as these trees, just letting go of everything and sitting with just not knowing, which is very uncomfortable. So I'm going to write this first invitation on the board. Can I allow all my leaves to drop? We know that many of you here in the monastery, you may be trying to make decisions, trying to decide, what am I going to do when I leave the monastery? Even if you've been here for a few days, or if you've been here for 2 months or a year or whatever, the time comes when we leave. And for myself, I try to no longer make any decisions. I've let go of making decisions. What I realize is a much more helpful way is to allow insight to come and to really get in touch with my store. So of course it takes courage to sit with this not knowing should I do this? Should I do that? It's very exhausting. One moment we feel yes, another moment we feel no. And so can we just let go and sit with that discomfort of not knowing? That place where we just don't have an answer. Can we sit with that? And we know, we've been learning during the Rains retreat, that this is part of our training, is how to sit with discomfort. So when we have those doubts, when we just don't know what to do, we feel powerless, helpless, what do? We recognize that, we come back to our body. Where do I feel that? As I say those words, I feel tightness in my tummy. And we notice how our mind can be so quick to want to fix, to try and get an answer. And of course that is our right brain in charge. The left brain. The left brain, which really wants to fix things, to get answers, to get everything cut and dried, put into boxes, very optimistic, so that we don't have to sit with this discomfort. We want to push that discomfort and doubt away. But beware. So how do we get in touch with a different part of our being, with our right brain, which is more focused on the much bigger picture rather than the details? Well, in fact, the good news is that it's exactly our practice. It's the first 4 exercises of the 16 exercises, where as we breathe in, we notice our in-breath. As we breathe out, we notice our out-breath. We come back to our breathing, we notice the quality of our breath. As soon as we do this, all the thinking stops. We come back to the sensation in our body as we breathe. And then we start noticing different parts of our body, being present for our whole body, and noticing any tension in the body and letting go of tension. And just in the space of a few moments like this, we have accessed our left brain. The left brain, which can hold complexity and paradox, but also can give rise to insight, rather than this deep desire to fix something and get things sorted. So the good news is, in this time of not knowing, just not knowing what to do, it's also a most creative time, because anything is possible. Like in the winter, it looks like nature is dead. It looks like the trees have died, no more leaves. But in fact, in the deepest part of winter, spring is being made. In those bare branches, in those trunks, the sap will soon start to rise, and spring is coming. It's being made. And so, looking at the trees, being nourished by nature, we can have confidence that this won't last. Spring is being made right now. The way that I'm taking care of this present moment is actually creating my future. I remember once when I was a lay friend, and I used to go and walk my dog every day, and one of the favorite places to go walking was along the side of a mountain stream, and there were orchards there, apricot orchards, I think. And I remember walking there in the winter once, and of course all the leaves are gone. It was very bare, quite desolate landscape. And I was very surprised, because in the orchard, amongst all the very neatly pruned trees, there was this old trunk of a tree with no branches, just a trunk, a hollow trunk. And it even had holes in, so you could see right through it. And I thought, why did they leave that there? That's so strange. You'd think that the the workers, they would have taken that out. And so I just continued on my walk. But when the spring came, I went walking again in that area. And as I walked along, I suddenly saw that hollow trunk that you could see right through in some areas was covered in flowers. Spring had come. And in fact, what was surprising to me is when I saw that, I just burst into tears. I just couldn't believe it, that out of this grey, gnarled, dead trunk, spring had arrived. And it was quite a wonderful moment. So from nature, we can get confidence, which means with faith. We can have faith, which brings us to a place of non-fear. This is how we can take care of our fear when we have faith. And I would like to read you a very beautiful poem by an English poet called Emily Dickinson. And it's called Not Yet. This has got quite a lot of very English words. I might have to explain a few words as we go along. No bracken lights the bleak hillside. The bracken is all those ferns, beautiful green ferns, but in the winter, nothing. No bracken lights the bleak hillside. No leaves are on the branches wide. No lambs across the field have cried. Not yet. But secretly the green shoots climb. The ewes are patient till their time. The ewes are the mother sheep who are pregnant, who are carrying the lambs. And of course they're in no hurry. They just wait. They will know, with all that consciousness of animals, they know their time will come. The ewes are patient till their time. Warm swell the buds beneath the rime. The rime is the frozen frost, hoarfrost on the branches, when all the branches are covered in ice. So it's freezing, but under that, the buds are warm. Warm swell the buds beneath the rime. For life does not forget. Life does not forget. Maybe we can listen to the sound of the bell. So I have another question I can put on the board. How am I nourishing my sap, those warm buds under the frozen frost on the branches? How am I nourishing it? So we are coming into the holiday season. In Europe, for many, it is Christmas, but it's also many other festivals at this time of the year for people following different spiritual traditions, or maybe no spiritual tradition. And this can be quite a challenging time. So how am I nourishing my sap? Am I starting to rush around and seek for distraction and hurry, get very, very busy with planning? But we can look at the animals. How are they doing at this time of the year? Your dog, your cat, or the animals in the fields, what are they doing? They're slowing down. They're having a sleep by the fire. They're spending a lot of the day asleep. They really know what to do in the winter. They are masters of wintering. So can we do the same? Can we slow down? Can we really come back to ourselves? So, as was mentioned in that poem, something that's very important during this wintering process is the element of time and patience. Can we have patience? In Lower Hamlet, as many of you know, I take care of the garden. It's a great privilege. And a couple of years ago, it was my aspiration to plant a wildflower field outside the front of the big meditation hall. And so with some wonderful lay friends, we prepared the earth and we spread the seeds. We were a little bit late in the spring. And it turned out that year that there was such a drought. It was so dry and nothing came up. It was like a disaster. So I just had to just put up with it, and that's the way it is, and we'll try something else another time, because I think there was a hose pipe ban, so I couldn't water it, so I just had to let go of that idea. But then autumn came, and a lot of rain, and suddenly that bare earth suddenly sprung up hundreds of little plants, of little wild flowers, quite extraordinary. It looked like one of those tapestries from Cluny, one of those beautiful medieval tapestries with a field of tiny flowers and plants everywhere. And it was quite extraordinary that they had known when was the right time to come up. And this reminds us of one of the characteristics of seeds. You know that we all have seeds in our store consciousness. One of the characteristics of these seeds is that they all ripen. And they ripen in their own time, but they are continually ripening. And so often we don't have to do a lot because they are always ripening. Of course, we can really help by cultivating good conditions, like I prepared the soil with the wonderful friends who helped me, and we left it alone, and so that it could come up in its own time. So we know that everything is impermanent, everything is changing. Sometimes we feel so stuck, that we're going to be stuck here forever, but we know that in every moment, each moment is different to the last moment. So can we allow ourselves to be different? Many of you have spent the last 2 months here, and some of you will be going home for Christmas. All of you will be going home at some point. And can you allow your old you to be dead? Because your old you, our old you from a few months ago, already doesn't exist, has already died. But we are a new person in every moment. And can we allow ourselves to be different, to be new? And can we allow ourselves to do things differently, to let go of those leaves and to be different, like the caterpillar going into the cocoon? Can we just let go so that we can metamorphose, and when we come out, we are completely different. And to have curiosity about that. I remember I spent a year in Plum Village as a lay friend one time. And of course, as the year was coming to an end, I was starting to think, what now? What should I do? I was desperately trying to make a decision about what I should do. Should I ordain? Should I stay as a lay friend? Should I live in France? Where should I go? What should I do? What should my work be? I just couldn't think what to do. And it was exhausting, absolutely exhausting. But then one day, I think probably during walking meditation when I wasn't even thinking, suddenly an answer came up, and it was terrifying. Absolutely terrifying, because it was exactly what I didn't want to do. But it was coming from a very small voice inside, which was, maybe I should go home to live in England. I hadn't lived in England for 25 years. And to be near my parents, to heal, to finish unfinished business. And because of the practice, I had watered well the seed of confidence in that kind of insight. And I thought, okay, I will do that. It was quite terrifying and quite challenging, but I did it. And in fact, it was a very wonderful time that I spent in England. I really thought I was going home for the rest of my life and to take care of my parents as well. But then in England, I became part of a Sangha. We were practicing together. I was seeing my parents a lot. It was very beautiful, very nourishing time. And after about 18 months, I was watching a video of from Plum Village, and as I was watching, suddenly, vroom, an insight. What am I doing here, even though it was so lovely, living in a little hut in the forest, very beautiful, with my dog? But an insight came out, what am I doing here? That's my community. And because it came from my store consciousness, this wasn't my mind, it was absolutely true. And just that one thought that came into my mind, that insight, was enough for me to pack my bags, to let go of everything, and to come to Plum Village to ordain. And so that was the fruit of my practice. The seeds had been ripening, and I had been able to have that insight because I had healed those relationships with my parents, with my family in England, and so that it was too heavy to stay in Plum Village with the disapproval of my parents. I needed to first of all finish unfinished business, and then I was free. There was freedom. So how do we practice for insight to come? We need to cultivate the conditions. That means we need to practice mindfulness and concentration, everything that you've been learning about in Plum Village. Cultivate the earth of insight, and insight will come up quite unbidden in the most surprising moments. Maybe we can listen to the sound of the bell. So as we come into this holiday season, and as maybe many people watching will be going home to their families, and all of us will go home to our family at some point, and for our friends staying in Plum Village, you will be living with the big family of residents and an even bigger family who will come for Christmas. So we will have a very big family to be here. This, of course, particularly with our blood family, is advanced practice because we have a lot of expectations, and also around the holiday season we have a lot of expectations. As children, we had all our own experiences around this holiday season, and inside of us we all have our inner child who is hoping to have good experience, or is fearing some of the painful experiences that we've had. So one of the most important things is don't take the war home. If we deeply wish for a ceasefire, as all of us do in the world for Christmas, we have to start in our own home. Peace begins here. Can we create a ceasefire zone in ourselves and with those around us at this time of the holiday? So you have all received a lot from Plum Village, a lot of different practices so that you know how to take care of yourselves, I hope, with the practice. And we know that the holiday season is the season of giving. So now is the time to practice the first paramita of generosity, about giving back. We have received so much from our teacher Thai, from Plum Village, so how can we give? We know that holiday season is the time of gifts, but we know as well that many children, if they are asked by their parents what do they really want for Christmas, of course the media may well have told them, I want this video game, or I want this electronic gadget or whatever. But what they really want is the presence of their parents. They want time with their carers that maybe during the year that they haven't had. And I think all of us can say the same thing. What we really want is connection and relationship. And this is what we can offer. We have received so much from Plum Village, so can we now, in turn, offer our presence, not our presents, gifts, but our presence. So if you are going to be going home to your family, something I have done in the past when I have felt quite challenged about going home to that situation is that I have decided I am going to have a going home retreat. I've actually made it like a retreat so that the whole time I'm at home, I'm going to be practicing and offering to the family. And I invite you to try to do the same thing. So the first thing is to let go of all expectations, because we know that expectations means that we have an underlying agenda, and nobody likes being part of someone else's agenda. So we just let go of all expectation and we let things unfold. But we cultivate the conditions, good conditions. Even if in your family there are a lot of difficulties, and particularly at the holiday season, because most people do have expectations, and why would on that day suddenly everything go so well when the rest of the year it doesn't go so well? So something to remember, something that Thai reminded us often, is that we only need one practitioner in a family or in a group of people to completely change the dynamics. So this hopefully will give you confidence. And don't worry, you don't have to start explaining the practice to everyone. It's a question of embodying the practice, really embodying the practice. So how are we going to offer our presence? How are we going to support the people around us? I had a big aha moment once when I was a lay friend, and in our little Sangha that we had, one of the Sangha members, she mentioned that she had realized that when she went home to see her parents now, that something had changed, and that now, rather than being a daughter going home hoping to receive support from her parents, maybe a different way, a more skillful way, would be to be a young woman practitioner going home to support her parents. What could she do for them rather than what can they do for her? And so when I went home on my going home retreat, I decided that I would really be there for my parents. And so this is the first mantra that Thai gave us is, let me just make sure I get this right. The first mantra is, I am here for you. I am here for you. So for myself, this word generosity can sometimes bring up some fear, because I grew up in a family who had gone through the war, and also from a certain generation where they weren't so generous with expressing emotion, and also there was a culture of scarcity, that there's only so much of everything, and if we start dividing it up, then if someone gets a big part, the other person will only get a small part. So it's not like the more we give out love, the more love there is. It was more a culture of, if someone gets this much love, then someone else is only going to get the leftovers. So this was a real kind of scarcity kind of environment. And I see that I still have that in me, this kind of stinginess, this fear of, will I have enough? Will there be something for me? So when I left Plum Village after my year here, one of the first things that happened, which was very challenging, was when I took the train back up to Paris. Everyone was very cozy in their seats in the carriage, all settled in, everyone going home for Christmas. And as the train pulled out of the station, suddenly the doors of the carriage, connecting carriage, opened, and a group of young men came in, all wearing these very young, sporty, rapper type outfits, and playing rap music very loud on their gadgets. Well, you can imagine the atmosphere in the carriage just froze. And these young men came and found their seats and playing this loud music and kind of taking up a lot of space. And I was thinking, uh-oh. And some people in the carriage were saying, turn that down, what are you doing? And the atmosphere was getting quite tense in that carriage. And it was really quite aggressive on both sides. And I sat there, I thought, my goodness, I've just spent a year in Plum Village. What am I going to do? And I just came back to my breathing, came back to my body, and I asked myself, what would the sisters do? I thought of my dear Vietnamese sisters, what they would do in that situation. And then I had an idea. These young men, they didn't have any headphones, so they were listening to their gadget on full volume so that they could all hear. And I had just got myself an iPod, my first iPod, which was very, very precious for me. But I thought, I have a pair of earphones. I thought, oh, no, if I lend them, maybe I won't get them back. I thought, well, okay, let's give it a try. And so I went over to, there were two young men side by side listening to their gadget, their very loud music. And I said, would you like to borrow the headphones? And they looked at me quite surprised, said, oh, thank you, great. Put in the headphones, silence in the carriage, everyone very happy. But of course I'm sitting there for the rest of the trip thinking, maybe I won't get my headphones back. What have I done? But what was so beautiful was that when we arrived in Paris, and I was thinking, should I go and remind them? What should I do? And of course, from time to time, they turned around, gave me a big smile, everything fine, very happy. And as we pulled into Paris, one of these young men, they came over to me and said, speaking in French, merci, madame, merci, oh, merci beaucoup. So kind, so like a young boy, his demeanor completely changed from this aggressive young man to being like a very well brought up young man, and giving me back my headphones. And that was such a lesson. Can I dare to do something differently to how I would normally have reacted? Maybe we'll listen to the sound of the bell. So to be able to practice nourishing my sap and to offering presence, first of all, we have to ask ourselves another question. How am I taking care of my freshness and solidity? So in my experience, to be able to offer our presence, which is really what our practice is all about. I remember asking Sister Gina once, I had a question, and maybe this will be a question for some of you when you go home, is we love so much being in Plum Village. We love the way that we communicate together, that we are a community. And when we go outside and things are so different, we can have a tendency to start closing down, to no longer be with those people. Oh, I don't want to be with that group. I don't want to do that thing because I want to stay in this lovely bubble. And this was something that was very alive for me. I thought the point of the practice is to be more open, is to be able to help people. But how do I align that with this feeling that I actually want to stay calm, to not get my buttons pressed? And so I asked Sister Gina, what do we do about that? And that's when she gave me this answer I've never forgotten. She said, why are we practicing? And already that's a very good question. Why are we practicing? And I didn't know how to answer. And then she gave me an answer. It's to offer our presence to others. And this was such a wonderful answer because it really gave me a roadmap for how to be. So that means that, for example, this holiday season, when we go home to be with your family or staying in the monastery, we have so many people coming. We're not going to wait until everything is lovely and cozy and people are there deep listening for us and having deep sharings. We're actually going to offer something to others. We are going to offer our presence. But to be able to do that, we need to take care of ourselves first. And then, of course, we are doing both things at the same time. So I can give some ideas about what we need to do. We need certainly to practice self-care, so we need a quiet space where we can take care of ourselves, where we can withdraw and we can take care of our emotions. So maybe in a little corner of your bedroom, or if you have more space somewhere in your house, to have a quiet space so that we can come back to ourselves, we can regulate our nervous system. There will be a lot coming up in this very social, festive time, and we need to do our inner house cleaning every day so that things don't build up. We will have our buttons pressed, but then maybe morning, I'm a morning person, so I love to sit every morning. I will bring up what's happened the day before and take care of those things, digest these things so that I don't get stuck in that energy. So to recognize what's there, to feel where it is in my body. Hello, I'm here for you, my anger, my irritation, whatever it is, my wounded child, to be there. I'm here for you, to breathe together and to notice that energy in the body, to accept it, to not try and fix it. It's just there. We sit as if we're sitting by the side of the river, just watching the process of all our emotions moving past and not getting stuck. So at home, once we leave the monastery, it's very important to have a bell of mindfulness so that it reminds us to stop. And that can be many things. I remember one time I lived in a hut, and there was a railway line not far away, and the trains went past about every half an hour. And every time a train went past, that was my bell of mindfulness. As we were talking about nourishing ourselves so that we can nourish others with our presence. So yes, it's very important to have a bell of mindfulness, and you can be very creative. In fact, it's very important to be creative with the practice. Maybe each time, if you're in a city, you hear a siren, you can stop, come back to your breathing. Or if you have a chance to be near a church clock chiming, that can be your bell. Or it could be every time you hear the birds sing, or a plane going over, whatever it is, just having something as your bell of mindfulness, so that we remember to stop. We have this beautiful pebble meditation, which is something I've used a lot when I've been staying at home with my family. Each morning I would be asking myself, can I be as fresh as a flower? Bringing it to my beginning, I feel like a flower. Some mornings we don't feel much like a flower. So we imagine the most beautiful flower, like this beautiful fresh, it's not actually a flower, they're bracts. But anyway, it looks like a beautiful Christmas flower. I imagine that flower, can I be like that flower? Can I be fresh? Can I be fresh? And if we're feeling tired, depleted, a bit overwhelmed, just coming back and borrowing that freshness from a flower that we can imagine can change our feeling. And breathing in, I feel like a mountain, visualizing one of your favorite mountains that you know or you've seen a picture of. And breathing out, I feel solid. Can I feel as solid as that mountain? Feeling your body in contact with the earth, like the base of the mountain, and your shoulders sloping down as the sides of the mountain, your head as the crest of the mountain, and sitting very noble, very majestic, and being solid since time immemorial. This kind of ancestral solidity that we can borrow from the mountain in times when we're feeling very agitated and when our nervous system is really dysregulated. We can come back to our breathing and use these images to help us. Another way of practicing to take care of ourselves is inclusivity, equanimity. That means whatever comes up, then we are open to receive that. Whatever emotion comes up in ourselves, we will receive it. We don't push anything away. We will be present for whatever is there. Even the most unpleasant things, the things we are ashamed of, the things we do not want to be there, we will say, hello. Hello, my irritation, my shame, my guilt, my despair. We will say hello, knowing that these are all parts of ourselves, and we invite them all to our table to eat together, to be together, knowing that they are all part of ourselves, and we don't want to push away any part of ourselves. And we notice, how am I feeling myself during this holiday season? The other day we had Advent, which was very joyful, but the next day I felt quite ill, and then I realised, oh dear, I've eaten way too much sugar. So just noticing the cause and effect of what are we taking in, what are we eating, what are we consuming, what are we drinking. We hope to follow the 5 mindfulness trainings and to not drink alcohol if possible, because then we can keep our mind clear. It's when we start losing our mind a little bit, that's when accidents happen. And in fact, I remember the story of a monk saying that not drinking alcohol was one of the most important mindfulness trainings, because it's when we start losing our mindfulness and our clarity of mind, that's when we can commit all the other
unskillful actions of the other mindfulness trainers. So to keep our mind clear, we need to be absolutely awake in this challenging situation of around the holiday period. Because we know that when we're amongst our loved ones, if we're going back to the family home, all the old patterns are going to come up. And as a practitioner, and if we're awake, we need to learn a lot if we can notice this. I'm starting to become like a teenager. I'm starting to become like a child. All of these buttons will get pushed. And so, if we're awake, we can notice all of this, and we can decide not to react like that. But we have a choice. If we are mindful, we have a zone of free choice where we can instead respond in a much more skillful way. So how am I feeding myself? With the food, with what we're drinking, our sense impressions. What are we going to be taking in? Are we going to be spending a lot of time on social media, watching films, watching not very wholesome things on the internet, on television? Because this is going to colour our mind. Or we'll choose instead to go for walks in nature with our family, to take our nieces and nephews and cousins, put on our boots and go jumping in puddles. We can walk to our inner child with our young relatives as well. We can water the seeds of joy by taking care of what we're taking in through our senses. We can remember our volition, our deepest aspiration of wanting to offer our presence, of what can I give to the people around me, rather than what am I needing from them. As a practitioner, we need to be able to take care of our own emotions ourselves. We don't ask people who are struggling themselves to take care of us, even though our inner child, our deepest wish may be to find that person who is going to totally take care of ourselves. We need to be able to integrate all the practice to become our own carer, to become that person who perhaps wasn't there for us when we were a child, so that we can take care of ourselves as an adult practitioner, so that we have the space to offer to those who do need our support. And of course, how am I feeding myself? With consciousness. As I've already mentioned, our store consciousness containing all the seeds. We will be having many seeds watered during the holiday season, memories, maybe previous challenges and difficulties, but we can decide what seeds are we going to water, and to cultivate joy, to offer joy to our home environment. Something else that another way we can take care of ourselves is also to practice compassion for ourselves. It's not easy. As I said earlier, being in a home situation, a holiday season, or being in a monastery as well, receiving a lot of people coming here, it's not easy. So we need to have compassion for ourselves. So when we're going through those challenging times, instead of having the inner critic coming up or judgmental voice, we could imagine how we could speak to a friend who was going through the same difficulty, and to have the voice of a friend speaking to us. It's okay, you're doing your best. This is a difficult time. It's okay, I'm here for you, to be here for ourselves. We can also imagine all the other people in the world who are going through difficult times with their families at holiday season, to know that this is a time when there's a lot of tension, a lot of difficulty, to know that we're not alone, and to send our compassion to all of these people who are having challenges, but maybe who don't have the luck of knowing what kind of practice they can use to be able to take care of these challenging and difficult moments. And of course, when things get really tough, it's great to go for a walk out in nature, to go and remind ourselves about how beautiful the nature is, even in winter, so that we can earth as we go to practice walking meditation and to withdraw from difficult situations. So maybe we'll listen to another sound of that. So we've taken care of our freshness and solidity, but in fact it's a continuing practice of taking care, because mindfulness is a bit like being a tightrope walker. We are in balance, we lose our balance, oh, we come back, oh, we lose our balance, oh, we come back. It's not something that, okay, it's fixed, it's done, I'm sorted. It's not like that at all. It's changing all the time. So our freshness and solidity, we need to keep on coming back, keep on watering those qualities, so that those seeds become stronger and stronger. And taking care of ourselves, it's so that we can nourish the others around us. So the next practice question is, can I nourish the forest? We know that forests are made from many beings, the trees, the fungi, the lichens, so many different beings, the animals. They are a whole ecosystem taking care of each other. So by taking care of ourselves, we are being very active in taking care of those around us. So of course the forest is also our sangha, and the sangha is not only Plum Village, but when we go into our family, they will become our sangha. And we don't have to ask them to practice. We don't ask our loved ones to change or to be different. By simply embodying the practice ourselves, it changes everything. It changes the dynamic. So the first way that we can nourish this forest is with our presence, as we have been talking about, and we can offer our stability. So just the fact of when we sit next to someone who is very stable, we will feel their stability. So can we do that when we go home, or when we're here receiving our guests, or we sit next to them, coming back to our breathing? By simply being as solid as a mountain, they will feel, the people we sit next to will feel our solidity. There's a very beautiful practice that I have practiced when I've been home, taking care of my mother when she was very elderly. And when we wanted to sit with someone, and we don't really want to be speaking, but maybe the silence might be difficult. What we can do is as we breathe in, silently, we can wish ourselves something that would be very, very beneficial to us. By breathing in, may I be patient, or may I be solid. And breathing out, we can wish the person sitting next to us something good, something we feel they may need. Like, may you be free from your despair. May you touch joy. May you be free from your depression. May you be free from your anger. So just repeating this, breathing in, something good for us. May I be patient. And breathing out. May you be free from your anger. And just breathing like this, it has an enormous effect on the people around us. They can feel our presence as we sit near people. Something that helps a lot is offering our presence at home, is if we can turn off the telly have moments where we can mindfully sit and watch something wholesome and fun with our family, but also to have moments when we can invite to be able to sit and listen to each other, to listen to the stories of the people around us. So when we sit with someone, practicing that mantra, I am here for you, that means that we have no agenda. That means that we're not looking at our phone to see if someone's going to phone soon. We're not, we turn off our phone. We're not needing to rush off very soon. We know that we can have a whole afternoon with that person we haven't seen for a long time. And we can just sit with them and just enjoy. I really enjoy the word in Vietnamese. I don't know actually what the Vietnamese word is, but our Vietnamese sisters, they use an expression which is, we can play with each other. And so I love this idea that we can play with our loved ones. That's simply to spend quality time with them without having any kind of agenda. And we can be very surprised what comes up, because that person will feel our presence, that we are there entirely for them. We are listening with not just our ears, but our whole body. And they may be able to share things that they have never shared to anyone else before. So we can come out of our breath and simply listen to what they have to share. But we can also ask questions. We can ask questions about joyful times in their life, about their childhood. We can find out a lot about things they've been through in their life. Of course, we don't go straight into difficult things. We can start with some joyful times, and we can learn a lot about them, and we will learn a lot about us as well by learning to understand our loved ones. So this is another thing we can offer, is understanding. I remember one time when I was at home, and I was washing up with my mother, standing at the sink, and I noticed that her energy was starting to close down. And my mother is someone who, if there is difficulty, she's not going to speak about it, she just closes off and stops speaking. And so, of course, when we feel that, this can take us back to when we were a child. This is exactly what happened to me. I start thinking, I just want to run away, and my wounded 5-year-old comes up, and I just don't want to be there anymore. I just want to run up to my bedroom. I don't want to stay there. But as a practitioner, we notice what's going on. We notice my stomach just becomes a great big knot, my shoulders are tense, my feet are itching to run away. I do not want to stay here. There's a lot of fear, because my mother is just closing down. She's abandoning me, in a sense. That's what I would have felt as a child. And so, what do? I turn towards her with my whole body. I listen with my whole body. I feel my 2 feet on the floor. I come back to my breathing. I notice the tension in my body. I breathe in my whole body. And then I say to my mom, because I know she's not going to speak, she doesn't have the capacity to be able to speak in these moments. So I say, Mom, are you feeling angry? Are you feeling hurt? I try and imagine what might be going on. Is something difficult happened? And then she turned to me and said, yes, I am angry. And then started to explain about what had happened. And I just listened, listening to her. And in fact, it was something very small. I could just listen to her and be there for her. And in fact, we spoke, we exchanged about what had happened. And by the time we finished, we were able to give each other a hug and to carry on through the day. And that moment was a moment of triumph. It was a success. It was the first time in my life that I had been able to talk through one of those difficulties with her, and probably for her too, that she was able to talk through, and that we were able to stay friends, and to continue our day happily afterwards. Normally, she probably would have closed down for 7 days, or maybe even a week, and not spoken to anyone. But we've been able to talk our way through it. And this is what we can dare to do when we can come back to ourselves and take care of that difficulty, and we dare to do something different. So I really encourage you, when difficult moments come up, to come back to the body, to take care of yourself first, and then to offer your presence to the other. So we offer our stability, we offer our understanding and our compassion. We can offer our freedom, the freedom we get from taking care of our own emotions as we go along, not allowing them to build up. We take care of our emotions ourselves, our own difficulties, our own needs, so that we don't have to rely on others and go to them for those things, so that we can really be there, offering our presence as a free person to the people around us. We also offer space. When we sit down with someone, like sitting down with your sister, your brother, your mother, your father, your grandparents, we just sit and we're there open to listen, knowing that each person is like a flower in a bouquet. They are all different, and so we offer them space. We don't have to start the conversation. We can just sit with them and allow them to start sharing. And if we get to a situation where many people are talking about quite toxic and difficult things, I found that something that helps is that, either we can totally change the subject, something more joyful, we go for a walk, we invite people to go for a walk, or if it's getting very entrenched, we can say, and how does that make you feel? We can say, it sounds like you're very angry. It sounds like you're very frustrated and you feel helpless. We bring it back to how they're feeling, rather than the story about the election or the story about the climate crisis or whatever it is. We bring it back like this because otherwise we can get into very toxic conversations that show water the despair of everybody. So the second mantra we have is, I know you are here and I'm very happy. So how can we practice that? Because maybe you don't actually want to say to your mom, I know you're here and I'm very happy. Maybe this doesn't really feel like the kind of vocabulary you use. So one thing you can do, that you all learned how to do, is flower watering. You can take the time to spontaneously speak to your relations, speak to your loved ones about all the things you appreciate about them. As you sit around the table for your Christmas meal, that could be a very beautiful thing. If it's not Christmas, maybe another celebration you have. You can just start going around all the people on the table, saying what you appreciate and any regrets you have. And doing this practice without any expectation, not doing this so that you get something back, but just putting it out there to tell these people what it is that you appreciate, what qualities they have that you love so much. When we go back home, we can cultivate joy. In Plum Village, we sing a lot. We sing a lot of songs. And I remember when I spent time at home with my parents, sometimes for my mother, I would just sit down and start singing Plum Village songs to her, and she loved it. And also to my little niece as well. As she was going to sleep, I would go and tell her some stories, and then I would sing songs to her. And they were absolutely mystified. Where did you get all these songs from? Because, we know a lot of songs here in Plum Village, and we can sing for quite a long time. And people love to be sung to. offer deep relaxation. In fact, going home, we can practice in a non-form way. We're not going to ask people to sit around the table in silence and to join our palms and to recite the contemplations before eating. But we're going to be creative as to how we can practice in a non-form way. And if you have elderly relatives, it's very important to spend time with them. And one of the most important things to remember is don't wait. Our elderly relatives won't always be there. In fact, all of our loved ones won't always be there. And we can practice impermanence. We know that we are so lucky in this moment that they are still alive, that I am still alive. So spending time with our elderly relations, asking them about their lives, being interested about their lives, about their difficulties and their challenges, about their joys in their life, so that they feel their life as being of value, is of interest to someone. And as I said earlier, you will learn a lot about yourself by learning about your grandparents, about your aunts and your uncles, about your parents, giving them an opportunity to talk about the things that they've never shared with anyone in their life before. Bringing Plum Village home to your own family home is a really fun practice. And some things that I have done as well is when my mother and father, in fact by this time they were both more or less bedridden, and but they were going to have an anniversary of their, I think their 60th wedding anniversary. I decided I would do tea meditation with them. So when we have formal tea meditation in Plum Village, the first thing we do is we make invitations to everyone. And so I designed a beautiful invitation for my mother and my father and said, would you be free to come to a tea meditation on this particular afternoon? And I delivered it to them in an envelope. And they were very delighted, and I said, oh, yes, will I be free? I need to look at my diary, what am I doing? And I mean, this is my mother who's in her bed every day, and not what happened. And they both dressed up in their very best clothes for the tea meditation. We got out the best time, and we got out a cookie. And we had some silence as we appreciating the tea, appreciating our cookie. And you can do this with your nieces and nephews as well. I did this with my granddaughter, when we had a grand opening of a pretend cafe that she had in her bedroom. And so we wrote invitations for all the family to come to the grand opening of her cafe with all her dolls lined up. And so you can practice in the things we do in Plum Village, and have beings, and get the members of your family to sing, to offer stories, to offer poems, and to bring this skillfulness that we have in Plum Village of joyfully being together without just sitting around the telly, to have other ways of being together. And of course, one of the most important things that we all do together, whether we're here in Plum Village or whether we're home, is doing the washing up. And we are so lucky that we know that this is a practice for us. So when you go home, back to your family, this is a wonderful time for people to come together, to work together, to do the washing up. And I remember when I was home staying with my sister and my brother-in-law the last time, and after each meal we had a wonderful time together, and then it was time for washing up. And of course, because of our habit, our good habit in Plum Village of washing up being a fun activity and also part of our activity, then I would go and get at the sink and we would practice washing up meditation. And we did that together every day. And I had very beautiful fruit from that offering of being present at the end of my stay, my brother-in-law, who's not usually someone to express feelings, he said to me, "We've never had a guest who has been so helpful and always showed up for the washing up every time. And thank you for doing that." Do you know, I was so surprised. I was so surprised that David would say, would offer his thanks in that way. It really touched me. And I thought, well, that's thanks to our practice here in Plum Village, that washing up can be a joyful being together time. So these are all ways that we can nourish our forest. And by our practice, we can nourish others by offering our space, freedom, understanding, our stability. And also how we can nourish the Sangha when some of you are going home and you will find your local Sangha. The fact that you spend time in Plum Village is going to really nourish your local Sanghas, and it will really nourish that forest. And by having spent time here, taking care of ourselves, coming back to our tree, letting go of our leaves, being present for just not knowing, but cultivating all the conditions we need for insight, we will also know how we can act to nourish the great forest of our planet Earth, what we can offer to the world in this dark time. So, most of all, I encourage all of you going home and those of you at home to find a Sangha, to have support, to download the Plum Village app, where there are many practices where you can continue to practice back home. And to remember, peace, it begins here. It begins in ourselves, in our small community, in our family, and in the world. And to start practicing ceasefire inside so that we can offer that